thanks so much. Thanks so much. Hope you guys enjoyed that. Great. So we have some time for questions. I know these guys had a few things to say about their own experiences learning online and learning in person. So who wants to start? Jay, you've been learning for the longest. So
learning online has been a good experience for me. Most of my training has been online, so I've gotten pretty used to it, and now I think like it's normal for me now. I haven't had too much trouble adjusting, and I really enjoyed it. And I think I really think that online education is effective, and I think from the way that I've learned and with the reinforcement that I've had like every few months when I meet Rohan in person, we often go over some of the things that we've covered online, just so that there's that kind of reinforcement, and we kind of cover some of the things that we weren't able to online. So some of the things such as like being able to play simultaneously, or a lot of times if you saw us, like we were keeping the beat while each of us was playing. That doesn't quite work out so well online just because of the lag. So if somebody's beat, if you get, it may appear that they're a beat behind just with the video and audio lag. So that's not always possible while learning online. So, but I think with a good mixture of both of them, I think it's really been effective for me, and I think it's been a good experience.
Thanks, Jay. Jay's a rising senior, Plano Senior High, is that right? Plano Senior High. I should mention that all of these guys and most of my students actually learn in a kind of hybrid model. So although online lessons are kind of what they regularly do, every 2 to 3 months I end up meeting them either in their cities when I have a performance in the area, or if we cross paths elsewhere. I often, regardless of whether I'm teaching in Dallas or performing in Dallas or Kalamazoo, Michigan, or Indianapolis, or even Chennai, India, I often see Jay by my side. So he also makes it to a lot of my performances, and that's a way for my students to kind of observe things in a face-to-face setting. Okay, great. Naren, do you want to say a few words?
I've been learning from Rohan for about 1 year. And it was a very good experience. I enjoyed learning from him because, as Jay said, it's pretty much the same thing. We reviewed the stuff that we used to learn in other classes, and same thing. There's some disadvantages on learning online. Sometimes you can't that aspect. It's like, hey, Naren, you can't play, you have to play the stroke like this. You can't do that because it's online. So it's so what Rohan does is he says, hey, Naren. So he demonstrates it, so he says, hey, Naren, you have to put your ring finger on the edge of the karni and strike, on the outer frame, or he demonstrates it, or he plays it for me and so I can see. And online learning has a lot of advantages, such as it saves the environment, so you're not polluting the environment with the cars.
Because of the commute, right?
Yeah.
No commute, okay.
And you're not wasting time. It's you have to walk because you don't have to walk. It's just it's home. It's at your house, and you don't have to drive. You're not wasting time. It's not 50. You have to drive for 50 minutes just to attend your classes. It's really easy. All you just have to do is just get on your computer and then just call him. It's pretty easy.
Right. Cool. Thanks, Naren.
So my name's Adi Kanakasabapathy. I live in Albany, New York. And I came for Jay's recital here. And I've been learning Middle with Rohan for about 6 months, starting April this year. So when I used to learn with another teacher for about a year or two, and I had to drive to his house, and that was about a 30-minute commute all by itself. So usually we did traffic, and then that would turn into a 50-minute commute, and then I lost 20 minutes of my actual time in learning. And on top of that, if we get caught by a cop because we were driving too fast, we're in a hurry to get to class, we get caught, we get a ticket, and you need to wait another couple minutes, another 30 minutes, and then that takes away time. So,
and a couple $100.
Yes, that too. So adding on to what Naren said, with Rohan, I can say, oh, I forgot, I have this event coming up. I think I need to pre-schedule, I need to move my class back an hour or two, and I can just call him, and it's easy as that. Instead of, if it's too close of a timing, I don't need to call and oh no, we gotta drive here, too late. It's much easier online. I guess for me, when I say you're having a class online, I think of it as second nature. It's not that hard. But, I mean, there are some disadvantages, like my friend said. There's no physical interaction between teacher and student, so if the student is constantly making a mistake on a stroke, you can't say, here, I'll hold your hand, here's how to do it, like what Naren said. But there are also many advantages, and also those disadvantages, they're countered by Rohan's professionalism. And so I think I can easily learn Mridangam online with Rohan. Thank you.
What grade are you going into? What grade are you going to?
Oh, and I'm going into 8th grade.
And on the side, he also happens to be my publicist. I'm just kidding about that, but he could be. He could be. Okay, great. So thanks a lot for sharing all the info. In the remaining time, do we have any questions for me or for any of these guys?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
How old is the youngest?
He just turned 10, right? You just turned 10? He just turned 10.
No, I'm going to be turning 10 in December.
Oh, you're 9? Oh, he's 9. He's turning 10. He's turning 10. Yeah.
I had a question for Adi. I saw that you were, as they were doing this, you were going up and down, up and down.
Yeah.
What's that?
It's the talam. The talam is a metered counter. So the talam that they were playing at is called Adi talam. Adi means starting. It's also my nickname. My real name is Aditya. My nickname is Adi. So it's a starting talam. It's the first talam we ever learned. Adi talam is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And you keep on doing that. And so it's a way to measure how long you're playing. And the end of your piece must always end on the starting or the summum. And that's pretty much it. So that's a metered counter to measure how much or how long you're playing.
And you might have seen, exactly, nice description. And you might have also seen us on stage gently tapping out the time cycle or the meter. Yeah, it's cool. Yeah.
You said that it had a long sacred tradition. Are people still learning it online for sacred use, or what uses are they seeking to use it for?
Yeah, I mean that's a complicated question, but the tradition has its roots in Hindu spirituality, and there are many aspects of the music, including say the lyrics and various melodic compositions that are still sacred, but there's also an aspect, arguably the entire tradition today has been secularized in many ways. So you have some performances that may be strictly sacred. For example, they're in a temple, but lots of performances, in fact, most performances today are not in specifically sacred settings. Yeah.
Is anyone developing this in a Christian use? Christian words being put to it in India and that sort of thing?
That's actually a good question. And the answer is yes. The new lyrics are being composed all the time to existing traditional melodies and rhythms. So, and there's, of course, a very long tradition of that in India. There have been Christian communities and even Jewish communities in India for centuries.
And do you do the singing with it, or is it another singer?
Usually, so the singing would be done by a singer. The singing that we do is in the form of the vocal percussion, but there are separate singers who specialize in singing, and other melodic instrumentalists, violinists and string players and things like that. Yeah.
Is it strictly male performance, or do both genders get involved?
Yeah, it's not strictly male. Pretty much all of these art forms now are pursued by men and women, although the drumming still tends to be mostly male dominated. But certainly Katie is an exception to that, and there are a few women who've taken it to a professional level. Yeah, lots of questions. Okay, go ahead.
Katie did it for those similar syllables and hand motions.
Yeah, there were. Yep, exactly. Yeah, and she actually learned a rather complex piece in a very short amount of time. I think in a month and a half or 2 months, she learned a complex piece, and there were. It was a different meter. It wasn't the 8-beat meter; it was a 7-beat meter. Yeah. Go ahead.
A question for you and also for your students. As a teacher, when you say, now I'm going to actually go see my students, what things do you say, now I will do it because it's face-to-face? And also for your students, what is it that you wait until you see him and say, now I have to ask you to show me this that I cannot do online?
Right, that's a really great question. In a nutshell, my answer is that you can learn you can learn music online. You can't learn to become a musician online. So to be a musician requires all sorts of interpersonal skills and knowledge of various cultural codes, and it's a totally different type of skill set that's required. It's not simply a matter of learning the repertoire. So those are a lot of things that I think these guys learn in person. A lot of it through observation. As I said, many of them attend my performances in different parts of the country. But there are certain things, again, the simultaneous performance, if one of them is playing, I can actually clap out these time cycles with them simultaneously. We can't do that online. Things like ensemble performance, so if they're playing with, say, a singer or an instrumentalist, those things tend to be a bit easier to kind of work out and coordinate in person as opposed to online. There are things like that. What do you guys have to say? What's easier to learn in person?
I think one of the things that is definitely easier to learn in person is technique. Some of the complicated things that I learned how to play. I mean, over online we can say it to each other and get the rhythms down. And a lot of times you can get the technique down just from explaining it, but sometimes it's easier to see somebody do it or break it down slowly and see how they're moving from one stroke to another. So I think that's definitely one of the great benefits of being physically together for a class.
He's totally right about that. And in a sense, teaching these techniques, these instrumental techniques, is almost like teaching surgery or something. So it's something that you could, in theory, teach online, but obviously it's a little bit easier if you're there, working with the surgeon and saying the students and kind of moving their hands. Okay, this guy's about to. You want me to move this back a little bit? Are you okay? I'll move it back a little bit. Okay.
Well, I think when you're learning online, you should really practice interacting with the musicians and the stage presence, because it's not like I'm speaking like this. Hey, what's up? It's like a machine. I mean, you don't have any excitement. Hey, what's up? There's a big difference. So, like interacting with the audience, you should look at the audience at sometimes, and the stage presence, you should have a smile no, what's up? It's like your parents made you do something that you don't like. Maybe eating a warthead. It's really sour.
Okay.
Yeah, so there some things that are easier to do in person are actually playing simultaneously with a singer, with another mridangam player, or another instrument altogether. Because of what Rohan said, the time lag can set you off. So you are playing, it looks like the other person is behind you, but for them it looks like you're behind them. So it mixes everyone up, and you'll speed up, they'll speed up, and then you'll go too fast and slow down. So in person, when you go to a Carnatic concert, everyone is playing simultaneously. So like what Rohan said, you can learn music online, but you can't become a musician online, because you need to be able to actually meet that singer, actually sing with them. You can't have an online singing, where you create a website. You could do that, where the singer would log on, the Miradangamists would log on, and then audience could log on as well. But the lag time would make it not very professional.
Great. Any other questions? Oh, yeah, go ahead.
You said that it developed with yoga.
Mm-hmm.
So do people do yoga while listening to this drumming?
I mean, there is a tradition of that. Not, say, the concert tradition, but there's a kind of devotional music known as a kirtan or bhajan, and in that kind of setting, there's some people who practice a kind of meditation or meditation through yoga. But in a concert setting these days, it's that element is largely gone. Mm-hmm.
Do you have a DVD?
I don't have a DVD, but I do have CDs and other resources available on my website, which is on the first page. I can remind you of that. It's ROHAN, my name, rhythm.com. ROHAN, rhythm.com. And if you forget that, you can always just Google me and find me. Yeah?
2 questions. One, do you ever have more than one student in the same location that are being taught together and come together to be taught by you online? And the second question is, do you make use of videos, YouTube, for instance, or something like that, to show them close-ups of how movements are done and other purposes?
Yeah, very good questions. You know, I mentioned that most of my collaborators in India didn't use notation and audio and video recordings, but I, in fact, do. I have a set of 7 compositions that I've fully notated and recorded, so all those things are available to my students. I share audio and video recordings with my students all the time. Another thing that I do to sort of teach ensemble performance is I'll get a recording of a piece that, say, my students are working on, say it's a song, and I'll record myself playing for the song and send it to them, so that's like a study guide. So they can hear that as a reference. Most of my lessons, online lessons, are one-on-one. I don't do too many group lessons. With the current state of the technology, one-on-one is kind of the limit, in my opinion, for especially to learn an instrument. There are voice teachers who do teach group lessons. Voice, again, is a little bit easier to transmit than an instrument, and many of them actually don't even use the video. It's purely just an audio call. So that can work for some people, but you know, the other thing is the technology just keeps getting better and better every day. So I'm sure a lot of these things that we're calling limitations now will likely not be limitations in maybe as soon as a year. Any other questions? Yeah.
Is it required that the right hand be used on a melodic thing, or do you have right-handed and left-handed?
You do, yeah. So the tonal side, the tonal drum head, is typically played with our dominant hand. So if you're a right-hander, you play with your right hand. If you're a left-hander, you play with your left hand. So all of us on stage are right-handers, but if there was a left-hander, the instrument would just be reversed. Yeah.
I have one last question.
Sure.
For Jay.
Oh yeah.
When did you feel confident enough to perform?
Watch out for the camera.
When I feel confident, like.
Yeah, for your first performance of your recital.
I mean, I think I probably first started performing maybe about a year and a half to 2 years after I started learning. So I mean, once I built up a good enough repertoire of patterns and things like that I could play for a singer, and then I had to obviously practice a little bit with singers to get the feel of it, because it's a lot different playing with someone singing than just playing by yourself. So it took me about a year and a half to 2 years to get that fully, and then you work your way up by performing for simple pieces, and then with more experience you get the hang of it and you can start playing for more complex pieces and songs and things like that.
So thanks again for your attention. Hope to see all of you guys soon.